What if the real Messiah was a woman who's been erased from history on purpose? And what if I told you there's an ancient gospel deliberately banned by the early church that says exactly this? This forbidden text is called Three Forms of First Thought, also known as trimorphic protonoia, and it reveals a huge secret that the Messiah isn't just a guy named Jesus, it's actually a woman named Barbelo. What, you've never heard of her? Well, of course not, because the church made sure that you wouldn't. Barbelo isn't just any woman. She's the first thought of God, and she annihilates traditional ideas of divinity. In the Three Forms of First Thought, she says, I wore Jesus. Wore Jesus, like clothing. Jesus wasn't just her messenger, he was her avatar. Barbelo is saying she was literally moving through Jesus, speaking through him and acting through him. And what if I told you that she wasn't just in Jesus, but that she's inside you right now? But see, according to this banned text, there's also a dark being and his offspring called archons that are keeping you from realizing the power that you really have. We're about to unravel the identity of this hidden female Messiah, expose the false god and his minions that are keeping humanity in darkness, and finally, we're going to reveal how this incredible knowledge empowers you to take back your divine power now. Our story starts not in some mystical heaven, but actually in the Egyptian desert in 1945. So picture this. Someone in the sands near Nag Hammadi stumbles upon a huge sealed jar. Now, I've seen enough movies to know you do not open giant jars buried in the Egyptian desert. That's basically ancient curse 101. But this guy, he opens it up anyway, and hold on to your holy water, because what these were, they weren't just random books. They were forbidden gospels that were banned by the church authorities way back around 367 CE. Inside, there were 13 of these books that were hidden for over 1600 years. Bishops like Athanasius ordered that books like this were to be destroyed. But luckily for us, some brave soul, maybe a monk, couldn't bear to burn them and hid them in a jar, hoping that future generations, like us, might find them and see what the church was hiding. Because, you know, if there's one thing the early church loved, it was keeping you from thinking too hard. But what exactly made these texts so dangerous that someone risked their life to hide them? What forbidden truth was worth preserving at all costs? Turns out, a hell of a lot. But one of the biggest blasphemies of these texts was all about Barbelo. Who is she? Barbelo is the hidden queen of early Christianity, the first emanation of the source of all existence. Not the first created being, she's not a creature, but the first unveiling of God's own essence. So now just imagine the panic attack early church leaders must have had. A divine feminine power? That makes too much sense. Quick, hide it before people start respecting women. And speaking of respecting women, did you know that the New Testament explicitly demands that women be quiet? In 1 Timothy, it says, I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. In 1 Corinthians, Paul doubles down on this, saying women should remain silent in churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission as the law says. So powerful feminine voices like Barbelo's were way too revolutionary, too threatening to the patriarchal order. Barbelo was erased, banned, and forgotten because acknowledging her existence would shatter their carefully constructed hierarchy built around a male god and male leaders. It's almost like they knew exactly how powerful women and the divine feminine within us could actually be. But what were they exactly afraid that you were going to discover? We're going to find out. My name is Morgue. I'm an ex-Christian revealing hidden knowledge the church doesn't want you to know. And one of the secret scriptures found buried in Nag Hammadi was titled the Secret Book of John, where the Apostle John receives a shocking vision from Jesus. It's revealed that the true God is not the God of the Bible, that the true God is something called the One. Jesus says, the One rules all. Nothing has authority over it. It is not right to think of it as a God or as like God. It is more than just God. It is utterly perfect light. So Jesus is telling John that God isn't a bearded guy chilling up in the clouds throwing lightning bolts at sinners, that it's pure cosmic consciousness. But guess who shows up next? Yeah, Barbelo. Jesus continues by saying, Barbelo is from his image in his light. She is the initial power. She is the universal womb. She is before everything. So Barbelo is essentially the first thought of the source itself, all existence. Barbelo's just one step away from the highest power in all reality. She's literally described as the universal womb. Now, we're not talking Mother Mary here. We're talking about the cosmic womb that birthed reality itself. She predates literally everything, planets, stars, time, and space, and she isn't just hanging around waiting for commands. She is the original power, the divine engine that started this whole cosmic show. And here's the part that would make your Sunday school teacher throw his Bible across the room. Barbelo isn't just God's feminine sidekick. No, she's the whole freaking Trinity. Another forbidden book found buried in Nag Hammadi is called Trimorphic Protonoia, which means three forms of first thought. But remember, remember, Barbelo is the first thought. So this book describes her three forms. So let's break this down because traditional Christianity tries real hard to keep this under wraps. See, Barbelo takes three forms: the thought, the voice, and the word. But there's a deeper secret here because this text also describes her three forms as, wait for it, the Father, the Mother, and the Son. In three forms of first thought, Barbelo herself says the voice that came from my thought exists as the Father, the Mother, the Son. And in the secret book of John, Jesus confirms this. See, Jesus transforms into three forms of light and says, I am the one who is with you always. I am the Father. I am the Mother. I am the Son. Okay, now let's really appreciate how much sense this actually makes. The original Trinity, being Father, Mother, and Son, is symbolic for a system of energy that works logically. You've got creative power, the Father, nurturing and structuring energy, the Mother, and the manifested consciousness, the Son. But no, the church had to swap the Mother out for the Holy Spirit, because apparently nothing scares a bunch of bearded bishops more than the idea that God might actually have feminine energy. The historian Elaine Pagels even points out that early Christian authorities deliberately marginalized feminine energy because God forbid that people might actually start treating women like equals. And they did forbid it, literally. And speaking of equality, let's get real blasphemous here, because Barbelo isn't just a she or a feminine goddess. Barbelo transcends gender altogether. She's everything and everyone rolled into one cosmic unity. In the secret book of John, Jesus outright says, Barbelo is before everything. She is Mother, Father, first man, Holy Spirit. Barbelo isn't limited by human binaries or categories. And in three forms of first thought, she says, I am androgynous. I am Mother and Father. I copulate with myself. This means that Barbelo embodies all aspects of creative and generative power within herself, meaning she's the ultimate self-contained divine being, which means no divine dating apps needed. Barbelo isn't just the feminine side of God. She actually goes beyond gender and duality, embodying completeness, male, female, their offspring within a single unified consciousness. And she's even more than that, because she's literally in everything and everyone. So let's go to the very beginning of the book, Three Forms of First Thought. This secret scripture opens right away with Barbelo saying, I am first thought, the thought that is in light. I am movement that is in all. She in whom the realm of all takes its stand, the firstborn among those who came into being. She who exists before all. She is called by three names. I move in every creature. I am before all, and I am all, since I am in everyone. All right, that's some powerful stuff. Let that sink in. Barbelo is saying she's the original thought of God existing before everything, inside every creature as an invisible presence. That she's knowledge itself, the real voice that echoes in everyone. And you can recognize this because a divine seed is inside you. This isn't just God is watching you, it's that God is you. No wonder the early church fathers had panic attacks and tried to bury this stuff like an incriminating Signal group chat. They couldn't handle a reality where divinity wasn't locked behind some church doors, but instead already lived inside every single human being. As the institutional church took shape in the 2nd and 4th centuries, it defined a canon of scripture and branded all other texts as heretical. The Gnostics who revered Barbelo, they were on the losing side of history. By the time of Emperor Constantine, Gnostic Christianity was suppressed systematically. Books were burned, bishops excommunicated, beliefs totally condemned. The divine feminine aspect of God was an early casualty of this. But what exactly made this Barbelo stuff so dangerous? Well, this forbidden book, it's more than just a creation story. It's a manual for awakening. There's no narrative of Jesus doing miracles or preaching sermons in this thing. It's written entirely from Barbelo's perspective, with her voice echoing inside your head, yelling, "You're divine, stop pretending you're just a human." But wait, if Barbelo's voice is already inside you, does that mean you've been ignoring her this whole time? And if you're not a human, what are you? Remember, Barbelo says, I move in every creature. That means that every living being carries the divine first thought within them. Barbelo is the divine spark living rent-free in everyone's head. Your grumpy neighbor, your crush, even that annoying influencer who keeps trying to sell you detox drinks. And it gets even crazier. According to this hidden gospel, everything that exists comes directly from Barbelo. She built the divine realms that are known as the pleroma. Think of it as the perfect realm of light, higher than all the heavens. But here's where this book takes a seriously dark turn into a cosmic horror story. See, if Barbelo's in everything, does that include the darkness? What about the things we fear, the things we deny, the shadows, the evil? Because here's the twist that people don't see coming. Barbelo doesn't just dwell in the light. She descends into the darkness on purpose. I descended into the underworld and shone down on the darkness. I poured water. I am hidden in radiant waters. I gradually dawn on all by my thought. Yeah, she literally took a cosmic road trip down into hell, and she didn't go empty-handed. empty-handed. No, she brought divine knowledge with her. But why the hell would a supreme cosmic deity willingly dive into the underworld? Oh, right, because that's exactly where we are. Yeah, spoiler alert, according to the Gnostics, Earth is literally hell. Congrats, I bet you didn't see that coming. Well, actually, considering everything going on in the world, maybe you did. But here's where the story gets even more disturbing, because in Gnostic texts, the world we live in, it's not the real one. It's a cheap knockoff made by a false god. You might know him as the loving God of the Bible. But surprise, according to the Gnostics, he's actually the villain of the story here. Basically the devil himself. And this guy's got more aliases than a shady internet scammer. He's called Yaldabaoth, Sackless, Samael, and is referred to as the child of chaos, fool, and blind god. Not exactly a winning resume, but how exactly does a false god hijack reality? And what if I told you that you're already living inside his illusion right now? But here's the part that's really terrifying. He wasn't just evil, he was dangerously ignorant, which, let's face it, can be worse. Imagine a toddler playing with cosmic power tools. That's our guy. He really thought he was the only god in town. 3 Forms of First Thought says, suddenly there appeared the great demon who rules over the lowest part of the underworld and chaos. He has no form or perfection. Rather, he has the form of the glory of those conceived in darkness. So this is, of course, Yaldabaoth, the self-proclaimed god of the material world. But where did he come from? Well, when Barbelo was structuring the Pleroma, she gave rise to powerful beings known as eons, and each one of them had a specific function or duty. One of the eons was called Sophia, which means wisdom. Well, Sophia wanted to create on her own, independently of the divine order. Well, when she tried to do this, she accidentally gave birth to a dark thought, the false god Yaldabaoth. And the text describes this as being like a cosmic glitch. This accidental offspring is nothing like the heavenly eons. He's more like a shadow that was cast by Sophia's light. Now, he is called Sakla, Samael, Yaldabaoth, he who took power, who stole it away from innocent Sophia. Originally, he overpowered her. Okay, but if Barbelo was really divine wisdom, why would she let this happen? The text says that with his stolen power, that Yaldabaoth did the unthinkable. He copied the eternal realm. He started making fake realities, distorted reflections of the real thing. Now the great demon began to make eons in the likeness of the real eternal realms, except that he produced them out of his own power. All right, think about that. We're not just talking about one counterfeit world, but entire fake heavens, layer after layer of illusions, designed specifically for what? To trap souls. He gave birth to dark rulers called the Archons, and they became the architects of illusion. Now, you've probably heard of the Archons without realizing it. They're basically like the spiritual agents in the Matrix. They don't care if you go to church, meditate, or collect crystals, as long as you stay asleep, as long as you believe that this world is all there is, as long as you obey them. They construct invisible barriers, implanting illusions and false beliefs designed to keep souls reincarnating and confused. But could they be succeeding with you right now? How much of what you believe is really yours, and how much has been carefully crafted by dark forces? The false creator Yaldabaoth never met a true god, or Barbelo. So according to the Secret Book of John, in his ignorance, he yells out, "I am God and there is no other God beside me." Now, if that sounds familiar, that's because that's also in the Bible. God says it all the time. But what if the one true God you've heard about your entire life was actually the bad guy here? In 3 Forms of First Thought, Barbelo says, the chief creator of ignorance reigned over chaos and the underworld and produced a human being in my likeness. But he didn't know that his creation would be a decree of his annulment, nor did he recognize the power in him. All right, so Yaldabaoth, this cosmic egomaniac, decided he wants a slave, someone that he could push around, manipulate, and keep blind. But here's the twist that changes everything. When Yaldabaoth creates Adam, he has no clue what he's really done, because hidden inside this human creation was the light of Barbelo, the divine spark itself. Think of it as Yaldabaoth accidentally installing a virus into his own cosmic matrix. Adam was a ticking spiritual time bomb, because hidden inside humanity from the very beginning was the ultimate antidote to all this ignorance, Barbelo's divine consciousness. And in that single oblivious act, Yaldabaoth sealed his own fate and planted the seeds of his own downfall. Barbelo entered the material world through Adam, and everything changed. It meant that within humanity, within all of us, even in you right now, is something infinitely more powerful than all the Archons combined. Now picture this. Yaldabaoth, Mr. I'm the only God, starts to sense sense something, like Darth Vader sensing Obi-Wan. And then he feels something he's never felt before. Fear. So if humanity really carries this divine power, why haven't we overthrown our cosmic prison guards already? Why are we still trapped in confusion and suffering and ignorance? Because that's exactly the Archon's job, to make sure that you never find the truth. They weave webs of hate, fear, desire, misinformation, and create a world that's constantly at war with itself. They're the reason behind the endless loops of chaos and distraction. And guess what? They thrive on it. But how can you recognize the illusion they created around you? According to the secret book of John, Yaldabaoth and his Archons made the Tree of Knowledge forbidden. When that didn't work, and people started waking up, they tried to wipe humanity out with a flood. When that failed, they resorted to plan B, mix truth with lies, keep humans chasing shadows. Sound familiar? Ever wonder why your TikTok newsfeed feels like a tornado of half-truths and clickbait distractions? But hold up, if we're trapped in some elaborate spiritual Alcatraz built by a fake god and his cosmic minions, where's the hope? Are we just doomed to binge-watch reality TV in ignorance for all eternity? Hell no, because Barbelo isn't having it. She sees her daughter Sophia in trouble. She sees her children, us, trapped in this cosmic scam, and she's about to go full-on rebel goddess, breaking into the prison from the inside out. She says, I was there with my own. I am hidden in them, empowering them and giving them shape. She's in everyone, bringing light to where light wasn't welcome. She's not just some abstract goddess in the clouds. She's the fire inside you, the light in your soul, the part of you that knows that something's very wrong with this place. Every moment of awakening or questioning a world that's ruled by lies is basically Barbelo whispering from within, hey, remember where you really come from. And speaking of forbidden knowledge, if you like peeling back the curtain on secrets that the church doesn't want you to know, hit like and subscribe right now. But this isn't just a YouTube channel. This is a revolution of consciousness, transforming the world through hidden knowledge. Also, check out my books and downloads on inner transformation. Links are in the description. But here's where things get wild, because the Archons, they start to lose their minds, literally. So picture this, the Archons, these cosmic dictators who've run the universe like their own private prison camp, suddenly hear the divine voice of Barbelo breaking into their realm. Everyone in the house of the ignorant light was disturbed, and the abyss trembled. The thrones of the Archons were disturbed because they were overturned, and their king was afraid. Their prisons of illusion are starting to collapse, and suddenly their fancy thrones look like furniture from IKEA. They begin to realize the little humans they cooked up as slaves might actually hold the power to destroy them. Now here's where it gets juicy, because the humans who bought into Yaldabaoth's lies, those who worshipped the false god and followed all the arbitrary rules, they start absolutely freaking out. They run crying to the Archons, realizing their entire belief system is collapsing in real time. Those who follow fate said to the Archons, what is this disturbance and this shaking we have felt? Our entire world has been shaken. The entire circuit of our path of ascent has been destroyed, and our way up to the chief creator of our birth no longer exists for us. They're basically saying, hey, we noticed that your whole cosmic tyranny thing is falling apart. Mind telling us what's going on? Because we're feeling pretty screwed right now. In other words, they're realizing with panic that the path that they believed led to their ultimate authority, their so-called god, was always a fake. But guess what? The Archons themselves, they have no clue what's going on either. Then the Archons answered saying, we too are at a loss about it, because we did not know what caused it. But get up and let's go to the chief creator and ask him. The Archons, these supposedly all-knowing beings who've been bossing everyone around, they're freaking out. So what's their brilliant solution? Run crying to daddy. So off they go to Yaldabaoth, their so-called chief creator, the ultimate egomaniac. Remember how the god of the Bible loves to tell everyone he's the only god in town? Yeah, well, the Archons remember too, and they're pissed because they're starting to realize it's all bullshit. The Archons said to Yaldabaoth, what kind of boasting is this? Didn't we hear you say, I am God and I am your father and it is I who produced you and there is no other god but me? All right, so this is pure sarcasm wrapped in panic. He told them he was the only god, but now they've heard the voice and felt the presence of the eternal realms of light slipping into their world, so they know there's something higher than the false god, but they don't know what it is. They say, now look, the eon's voice of invisible speech has appeared. We don't recognize the voice, nor to whom we belong, for the voice that we heard is foreign and its origin unknown. It came and terrified and weakened our arms. In other words, they're having the ultimate cosmic identity crisis. They've lost their anchor. They thought they knew their boss, their origin, their creator, but now they're asking themselves, if Yaldabaoth isn't who he says he is, who are we really? What do we truly serve? Who do we serve? Have we been blind servants of a fraud this whole time? Then they completely freak out and try to run away. So let's weep and mourn bitterly, and let us fly away before we are forcibly imprisoned and taken down to the bowels of the underworld. Already the slackening of our bondage is near, and the time is is short, and the days are brief, and our time fulfilled. In other words, oh shit, we're doomed. Pack your cosmic bags. Armageddon's coming. They're afraid they're going to end up in the prison of chaos that they created. They know their time is running out, and they finally realize exactly how bad they screwed up. The weeping of our destruction is near. The tree from which we grew has fruit of ignorance. Death is in its leaves, and darkness under the shadow of its boughs. In deceit and lust, we harvested the tree through which ignorant chaos became our home. They thought their origin was the pure tree of life, but their tree is actually the tree of death, full of poison, deceit, and ignorance. And if you're new to this idea, let me explain. In esoteric traditions, the tree of life represents illumination and eternal life. Its opposite, the tree of death, symbolizes ignorance, illusion, spiritual blindness, and darkness. Essentially, spiritual poison. And the archons, these arrogant spiritual tyrants, are just now figuring out they've been eating from this poison tree all along. Then the archons say, for look, even the chief creator of our birth, about whom we boast, did not know this speech. Even Yaldabaoth, their supreme creator, the so-called one and only God, is completely taken off guard here. He's as ignorant and as blind as them. He doesn't understand where this real power is coming from. And here's where Barbelo lays out the plan she's laid this whole time. She says, I revealed myself in their tents as the word. I wore everyone's garments. I hid in them, and they didn't know who strengthens me. In other words, Barbelo was never an outsider sneaking into Yaldabaoth's world. She was literally embedded into the fabric of reality. She's the fundamental essence of everything. She wore every mask, played every role, inhabited every single being, but no one recognized her. She says it directly, for I am in all dominions and powers, and among angels, and in every movement in matter. I hid in them until I revealed myself to my brothers and sisters. None of the archons knew me, though I work in them. They thought they created everything because they are ignorant. They didn't know the root and source of their growth. I dwell in everyone. Barbelo's literally inside everything, even hidden inside the archons, those self-proclaimed gods who thought they were in charge. They believed they were the supreme creators. But Barbelo, the real divine energy, was the source of all their power. I was in them, in each one's form. The rulers thought I was their anointed. Actually, I dwell in everyone. Think about that. Barbelo didn't just infiltrate their reality. She infiltrated their very identity. The archons thought Barbelo was their special chosen one or their messiah. In reality, she was the hidden divine presence inside everyone, waiting patiently until the right moment to shatter the illusion. And Barbelo's not done yet. She finally reveals her long game. I hid in them all until I revealed myself among my members, which are mine, and I taught them about the ineffable ordinances and about the brothers and sisters. She's talking directly about humanity. Barbelo secretly whispered her hidden teachings, her ultimate truth, to us humans, basically planting spiritual Trojan horses of knowledge. But what happens when humanity starts to awaken and realize who they really are? Barbelo delivers the knockout blow. I tore off from you the bonds and broke the chains of the underworld demons, the same restraints that bound me. I overthrew the high walls of darkness, and I broke the secure gates of those pitiless ones and smashed their bars. And I spoke of the evil force and the one who beats and harms you, the tyrant, the adversary, the king and the real enemy. Barbelo, the primal mother, is telling the archons to their face, I ripped off the shackles you put on humanity. And she reveals that when humanity was enslaved, that part of her was also enslaved because she's the mother of everything. And because of that, she's inherently part of her children. So she wasn't just freeing humanity, she was freeing herself. And now she's done playing around. She's breaking the prison apart from the inside out. Barbelo says, I informed all who are mine, who are children of light, how to nullify the enemies, be free of bonds, and return to where they first were. In other words, she's teaching us how to hack the system. She's giving humanity the secret cheat codes to break free of the Archon's control and go home to the true realm of divine light. This secret knowledge, gnosis, is exactly what the Archons fear, and it's what Barbelo plants in the world. The real enemy, it's not sin, it's not even death, it's ignorance. It's the belief that you're small, unworthy, a slave. It's the lie that says God is out there and not in here. Think about it. Hidden wisdom versus cosmic control. Doesn't that sound exactly like the world we live in right now? Barbelo says, I broke the first strands that enslaved them, then everyone in me shone. So the battle here isn't with swords or lasers. This isn't a Marvel movie. It's a battle of consciousness. Every chain that Barbelo breaks is like a mind that's freed from deception. Then she drops the ultimate truth bomb, explicitly revealing her role in the Messiah we all thought we knew. She says, I wore Jesus. I carried him from the cursed wood and set him in his father's house. And those who guard their houses didn't don't recognize me. Did you catch that? She doesn't just inspire Jesus or empower him, she wears him. Barbelo is explicitly saying she embodied Jesus. Her consciousness moved through him, shaped him, was him. And the archons had no idea who or what he really was. See, this forbidden Gnostic gospel of Barbelo is screaming at us that Christ is not some idol to be worshipped like a celebrity. The true Christ is a state of being, the divine spark hidden in everyone, the seed Barbelo herself planted. The real goal isn't to bow down to some authority, it's to ignite the divine spark in you, to discover your inner Barbelo, your inner divinity. But let's be honest here. Can you imagine the organized church being okay with this? If everyone carries God inside, who needs priests or bishops telling you what God wants, right? But wait, if Barbelo secretly wore Jesus, did anyone recognize who Jesus really was? Well, the answer comes from someone you'd never expect. Ever hear of the Gospel of Judas? Yeah, that Judas. In this forbidden gospel, Jesus reveals that the disciples are actually evil and worshiping the false god Yaldabaoth. The Gospel of Judas essentially says the disciples think that Jesus is the son of their god, the false god, but Judas is different and realizes that Jesus comes from a higher hidden god. Judas tells Jesus, I know who you are and where you've come from. You've come from the immortal realm of Barbelo, and I'm not worthy to utter the name of the one who sent you. Can you imagine Judas of all people knowing the ultimate secret? I actually did an entire video about the Gospel of Judas, so make sure you go check that out. See, the archons thought that they would stop the Messiah by crucifying him. They didn't realize the Messiah was never just one man. It was Barbelo's infinite consciousness hidden within humanity itself. Barbelo slipped quietly into their world, passed through their nets of ignorance, and planted the seed of her divine power directly into humanity. Barbelo is the seed. Christ is the level of consciousness you get when you look within. Think about it. What kind of power do you hold right now inside you without even realizing? How close are you to finding it? But hold up. Did all of this actually happen? So let's pull back the curtain here, because the ultimate point isn't about literal archons or a literal goddess secretly controlling Jesus. That's just the surface level reading for people who take everything way too literally. This entire text is actually a coded message, a powerful symbolic metaphor designed to awaken you to your true self. Even Barbelo herself says this is a hidden code. She says, I went under their language and spoke my mysteries to my own, a hidden mystery, and the bonds and eternal oblivion were nullified. In other words, Barbelo's saying, hey guys, this is a metaphor, a symbolic truth hidden inside a wild cosmic story designed specifically to hack your brain out of the illusion you're stuck in. So then, is the Messiah actually a woman? Well, not exactly, but the truth is even wilder. Barbelo isn't literally a woman floating around in heaven. Barbelo represents the ultimate divine spark, your purest, deepest, most authentic consciousness. She's neither male nor female. She's beyond all that dualistic nonsense. She's the highest aspect of you, the one who whispers to you when you finally turn down the endless chatter of TikTok, your insecurities, and your fears. Barbelo's your higher self. You just have to realize it. Barbelo says, you have earned the right to own the mystery hidden from eternity. Now accept it. In other words, she's saying, wake the hell up already. You're divine. You're powerful. Stop waiting for someone else to save you. You're it. So what about Christ? Well, Christ isn't literally just a person named Jesus. Christ is a state of being, an awakened state of consciousness that you can reach. Don't believe me? The Gospel of Philip flat out says that once you understand this message, that this person is no longer a Christian, but a Christ. Becoming Christ doesn't mean following dogma or believing blindly. It means discovering this divine power inside you, the first thought, the Barbelo consciousness, and fully realizing. And the archons, what about them? These so-called evil rulers. Well, they aren't literal space monsters plotting evil in some celestial Death Star. Archon actually means ruler, and they symbolize your inner demons, your own fears, insecurities, ignorance, and attachments that rule you. They're the part of you that says you're weak, you're powerless, you're unworthy, you have to obey some external authority. But Barbelo, the divine spark, says something completely different. You are powerful, you are divine, you are the creator of your reality. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, recognized these archons immediately. He described a psychological concept called the shadow, and the shadow represents all the repressed, hidden, and denied parts of ourselves, the fears, insecurities, guilt, self-doubt. Jung taught that these shadow aspects don't disappear if they're ignored. Instead, they become more powerful, internal rulers, secretly controlling us from within. This is exactly what the archons represent symbolically. They're your internal shadow rulers, dark aspects of your psyche that keep you trapped and repeating harmful patterns, feeling small and powerless and separate. In the same way that archons feed off ignorance, your internal shadow grows stronger when you refuse to confront it. Jung famously said, until you make the unconscious conscious, unconscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's exactly what the archons do. They operate in the shadow, convincing you that your limitations and fears are real, permanent, and unchangeable. But just like Barbelo descending into darkness to bring enlightenment, Jung taught that the only way to overcome these inner rulers was to bravely descend into your own unconscious, to confront and integrate your shadow. The struggle between Barbelo and the archons is actually the internal struggle within you. The descent into darkness, that's Barbelo, the divine consciousness moving into the shadowy depths of your unconscious mind, confronting and overcoming fear and ignorance. The underworld symbolizes your shadow self, the places in your mind you've ignored or suppressed. When Barbelo breaks the chains of the archons, that's higher consciousness breaking your own chains, shattering your limiting beliefs, dismantling the illusions around who you think you are. This is the Gnostic secret. All the gods, demons, and ancient archons, they're all in you. And all the Gnostic gospels are really your gospels. They're the story of your own awakening. They're your story. You carry Barbelo in you. And Christ is a state of being you can become. The archons are simply your internal barriers, and the real Messiah isn't coming down from heaven. The real Messiah is you right now, awakening to your true nature. But hold on. If all this about Barbelo secretly wearing Jesus blew your mind, there's one more twist that you have to hear. Have you ever wondered why Judas betrayed Jesus? And what if Judas actually revealed that the God worshipped by billions today was secretly the devil the whole time? Watch my video. Judas reveals God is actually the devil right now. Trust me, this is one the church definitely doesn't want you to know.